Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and the Facebook and YouTube channel page, however you want to phrase it, of the Virtual Cantina Network. As always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. If you would like to get some awesome Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. As always, guys, if you are watching on YouTube and have not done so yet, please click the like button and the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. And if you would like to check out audio versions of the show, just Google Nerf Herder Council podcast, and we are basically everywhere. So real quick, before we jump online here, AJ is going to be really mad that I'm doing this, but I wanted to talk politics for a minute, guys. Obviously, we all know that last night was a very, very important night in the history of our country, those of you who are Americans, and I just felt something needed to be said. There's a lot of division in the country, a lot of stuff going on. Guys, the only politics that matter, let's be honest here. I hate to bring this up. AJ's going to kill me when I bring him on here. It's the taxation of intergalactic trade routes over the sovereign system of Naboo. That's what we should be worried about. Okay, it's not Trump versus Harris. It's not all these other things. It's trade routes, man, over Naboo. That is what we are here to discuss on the Nerf Herder Council. The issues that matter, the things that affect us all. They affect us all, guys. This is very important. Okay, so that is all the, I think honestly you should be on the side of Naboo, in the Jedi. That's as political as I'm going to get tonight. So without further ado, my best friend and my brother, AJ. There you go. There's my politics. I warned you, dude. You told me not to do it, but I had to do it. I had to do it. There's some important shit going on that hasn't been addressed, and I had to address it, dude. I had to address it.
Well, my political career is over before it began. If James Gunn can get fired for tweets from 10 years ago, then I can definitely lose any political race I've yet to even join from someone watching this show. Good job.
Nice. All right, so I have to address something in the chat here real quick. So Kale McLeish says, what is that shirt you have on tonight, JT? And John Phillips, very good eye. He says, that's a Joshua Toomey shirt. John, that is 100% correct. By the way, great to see you guys both. This is actually, I think this is, 3 years old or something at this point. But yeah, this is a good friend of mine, Josh Toomey. He's done a show called Talk to Me for years and years. I actually was a co-host on it for about 6 months. He was on the what's Not Fest Network. He was on that, just all over, but he's everywhere. So if you look up Josh Toomey or Talk to Me, he's everywhere. If you're into music and heavy metal and stuff, he's amazing. Super nice guy, does a fantastic job, gets all the big names. And this is actually an old school Josh Toomey Talk to Me t-shirt. It's supposed to look like death metal, but if you look closely, it looks like a death metal guy eating pizza. So check this out real quick. And so there we go. Got a little bit of Talk to Me death metal eating pizza. So excellent eye, John Phillips. Kale McLeish says, wait, only the trade routes? I think the Galactic Republic's bill to create a clone army should be in question. And Nick Hall says, I do not approve of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. All right, well, see? On this show, guys, we will have open and honest political discussions. And AJ, I know you hate when I do this.
These are hot button issues.
I'm gonna call us out on something. I know you hate doing this on there, but I forgot once again to share our damn show to the Virtual Cantina Network page.
Oh, nice job.
Yeah, not too good. Not too good. So I'm gonna do that while we're talking, but yeah, a serious political note. Everybody just get the fuck along, okay? We all need to live by the Bill and Ted mantra. be excellent to each other. That's all I need to know. And there's our political statement for the night. So there we go. All right. So getting to the topic here, AJ. This was an idea that you came up with, and I thought it was very, very good. And so I'm going to let you lead this because this was, again, your idea, and you've got a definite direction you want to take this. So why don't you let everybody know what exactly we are doing here tonight?
Okay, so it occurs to me that we are coming up on 10 years of Disney Star Wars, right?
Sorry.
They actually bought Star Wars back in 2012, but we started getting projects in actually 2014 from Disney-owned Star Wars, you know, starting with like Rebels and then into the sequel trilogy and so on. So I don't know. I, as a fan personally, have been feeling that not franchise fatigue, but just like I feel like the quality and the hype level for each new project is diminishing. And I don't think I'm alone in that. So I wanted to take a look at the first 5 years versus the most recent 5 years of the Star Wars franchise and just take a look and see, like, is it losing steam? Are we too far afield? What does it take to make Star Wars like a hot property? Maybe we're just spoiled by the sheer quantity of Star Wars that we're getting these days instead of like the every 3 years a movie, except for the 16 years we didn't lapse in the 90s and the late 80s. So yeah, I just thought that it would be interesting to take a look at like the first 5 years of Disney Star Wars to the most recent 5 years of Disney Star Wars and see like if anyone else is feeling this franchise fatigue like I am, like why is that? Like what is the point? What is the purpose of feeling this way? And see if we can figure out like maybe there are reasons for it and then maybe there are reasons to be hopeful for the future too. So yeah, people have accused me of being an eternal optimist even in the darkest of times, and that's as political as I'll get. But yeah, I think that sometimes just because, you know, much like the Rebel Alliance itself, sometimes you've got to experience the worst, as Andor put it. Like I think that was one of Luthen Rail's whole points, was like, we've got to get people pissed off, we've got to cause pain and suffering a little bit so people will wake up to the larger issues. And I think maybe that's Star Wars as a whole right now. So let's take a look at the stuff and see what we think about this stuff. JT, I got a couple different ways we can crack this nut. Do you want to go through the projects one at a time in chronological order, or you just want to kind of like talk about what is your sense of Star Wars as a franchise right now?
Let's start there, and then again, because this is your baby, so to speak. I think you've got a good handle on how to direct this, and full disclosure, you're always excellent at guiding me through topics and stuff like that. So I always appreciate that. My sense of Star Wars as a franchise right now, the word that keeps coming to mind is rudderless. I think there's, you know, I'm very excited for Skeleton Crew. It looks a lot cooler than I thought it would be based on the trailer. You know, when we heard about this at Celebration, we were like, okay, Jude Law chasing kids through the forest. Like, what the fuck is it? Oh, sorry. The views of the Nerf Herder Council do not necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network. And there might be bad language on the show. Forgot that again, as usual. But yeah, when we heard the show description, both you and I were like, what? Huh? What? Okay. Like, but you know, it does kind of look cool. John Chiato, great to see you, man. Miss you, brother. Love you lots. Yeah, so I'm glad that it looks awesome. I'm very excited for that in less than a month. I am super excited for the Rey movie. I'm standing by my belief that that's going to start a whole new era of Star Wars. I think it's going to be episodes 10, 11, and 12 personally, but we'll see what happens. Billy Judd, good to see you. Skip Ruckle, good to see you, man. But yeah, other than that, I feel like, you know, with the Acolyte being canceled, that one I firmly believe was caused by Lucasfilm just, you know, listening to the online hate. I think it's the first time they've really done that outside of maybe Solo. I really feel that was not a well thought out decision. I don't like that. We've had a bunch of movies fail. It just feels like there's not a set direction. It's like kind of throwing things up in the air, seeing what people will catch, kind of a thing. So, David O'Neill, great to see you, man. Appreciate you as always. He says, Goonies in space, what could go wrong? Yeah. I'm really wondering about that, David. Like, complete side note for a second here. I don't know if it's going to really. I mean, it does seem like Goonies in space. I know everyone's using that term. I think it's going to be quite different. I'm actually thinking this is going to have an extremely serious feel. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. But yeah. So back to your original question, AJ. I feel like it, rudderless is how I would kind of look at this right now. Like, what about you?
Yep. I actually think it's a perfect explanation for it. I liken it a lot to the MCU and its recent struggles, where
100%.
Leading up to Endgame, there was a clear roadmap. You could sense things were building and culminating to something, and then since then, it's like, I think we had it in the chat here where it's a matter of, oh yeah, Cale McLeish says right here. He says, I would say it is, meaning it's kind of in a lull right now, given that Skeleton Crew's coming in under a month, and he's feeling like he'll watch it, but he doesn't really care. And I'm kind of the same way. Like, to be honest, I was not a fan of The Acolyte, and there's a couple Disney Plus series that I think could have been a lot better than they were. So okay. Yeah, it's new Star Wars, so I'll check it out, but it's not because I'm excited for it. It's like, well, it's Star Wars, I might as well give it a watch. But it's not like appointment viewing anymore. Like, oh my God, I'm counting down the days and I can't wait to see what this is going to be all about. And I feel like Marvel's much the same way, where they had such a streak of just throwing stuff at the wall without a really clear roadmap of where it was heading, that it's hard to get into anything new, because you're like, oh, is this just going to be more of the same, or is this actually leading somewhere?
Yeah.
I think Star Wars is the same way. And the one thing I noticed, the reason I picked the 5-year window is because the dividing marker in that is episode 9. We were building towards the culmination of what Disney dubbed the Skywalker saga with the sequel trilogy. And then after that, it was like, okay, well, what now? And that still stands as the last movie that we got of Star Wars, which is at its heart a film franchise.
Yeah.
So we've got really two different flavors of Star Wars here. So I wanted to see, especially with the chat and whatnot, like how people are feeling about this stuff.
Well, Skip Ruckle, again, thanks for tuning in, dude. Good to see you. He says, lack of supervision is my feel. Budget too, he says. Kale says, at the moment, it seems like they're throwing shit at the wall and wondering why The Office stinks. Yep, yeah. Completely agree. And Skip again says, no attention to details, especially in the canon or storyline area. Yeah, it kind of seemed like it was going in a certain direction, and now it's kind of all over the place.
I've heard this criticism, where they got all these projects following one after the other, and they're all at different spots in the timeline. So it's hard to really feel like any of it has any connection. So it just feels disjointed and ultimately then unimportant. Like here's Rogue One, which is basically original trilogy era. Then let's do a sequel trilogy movie. Now we've got the High Republic, which is 100 years prior to episode 1 and before. And like, it's all over the map. And you're like, well, does any of this really matter then? And it clearly doesn't connect to each other. It's just a series of disjointed stories.
Yeah. And I think that, at least for me, I think you just like hit the nail on the head, because it's everything seemed kind of focused when it first started. Like Mando happened a few years after, Jedi and stuff like that, whatever, or whenever. And, Book of Boba Fett was kind of like a sub story and all that. We knew what Andor was about. And now it's just kind of like, now that they're introducing the High Republic and all that, it's just, okay, like it's okay. I think Star Wars has always been at its best when it's focused on one point. That's why the Skywalker saga is always going to be the center of everything, because it's, the Darth Vader story. becomes Vader, and then the redemption of Vader. Like that's where it all stems from. That's the trunk of the tree of Star Wars. And I think now that they're getting away from it, they're not planting other trees, which is why I really think that this Rey movie is going to be, that new kind of, the new tree. I really, dude, I firmly believe that. And I hope it happens, because it'd be awesome to go back years down the road and come back. And let's say it happens, I've been saying this on how many episodes? Oh, it's going to be episode 10, 11, and 12. It'd be awesome to see that, not because I want to be right. I mean, that's fun. Don't get me wrong, but but it would be awesome, because I want it to be a new starting point, because think of all the things that you can offshoot from that. And yet you can still, that still does tie back to the Skywalker saga. So it's rooted in something that people can latch onto, but it's fresh, it's new, and you can still do all these other branches and everything like that, and it's going to be great. So I think it needs direction again. So and you've talked so many times offline that I know you in particular are really frustrated about the fact that they'll announce a movie and then nothing ever happens. Oh, this guy is the writer. It's going to be amazing. It's coming out in 3 years. Oh, no, they fired the writer. No, the script is shit. Like, yeah, it's on the shelf. How many times have we seen that?
Yeah, it's really alarming, actually, at this point. It's crazy the amount of stuff that they announce. And again, I feel like this might be coming from the Disney level of supervision, not the Kathleen Kennedy level and below, because Marvel had the same problem. They announced a whole slate of stuff a few years back, and then half of it got scrapped. The other half is either delayed or much lower quality or reduced in scope. It's just this big mess where I think that who they call Bob Chapek, the former CEO of Disney, just wanted like quantity, just keep churning it out, man.
Yeah.
And it ultimately resulted in diminished quality. And I think Star Wars was the same way. We had that was it D23 a couple of years back, where they announced like 11 different Star Wars projects, at least half of which have yet to see the light of day. It's pretty astounding. And it was just a matter of like, they thought that they could just keep churning out content over and over again, and it didn't matter if it was good or not. It was just like, well, if it's got the Star Wars name on it, people will buy it. And no, that's not the case, actually, which I think is great. I think it's great, because I think there's good stories to be told, and it takes being brave enough to say no to certain things instead of just churning out whatever comes through the pipeline to, frankly, at this point, kind of save the franchise.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say save the franchise. I mean, there will always be an audience for Star Wars. Don't forget, if the Star Wars audience diminishes by half, you're still talking about hundreds of millions of people. So, I mean, it's like, what are you really losing? But, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but it's just, I mean, Star Wars is going to live in perpetuity. It's something you almost can't kill. I firmly believe that, and go ahead. I know people have differing opinions on that, but
there's always an audience for existing Star Wars, but new Star Wars is the issue. I feel like a lot of people were turned off by that sequel trilogy that you have to win back now. And the TV shows aren't doing it.
I don't know. See, this is such a difficult topic for me, because, everyone always says, oh, Star Wars is for kids. Star Wars is for kids. But, and I'm sorry, like, I will stand by this belief. I don't subscribe to that. Honest to God, man, I still believe that Star Wars is for people like me and you, the middle-aged, nerdy white guy, because we're the ones that
Star Wars. I believe that Star Wars is for everybody. The way they've been diversifying the projects, they've got some kids shows like Young Jedi Adventures. I mean, that's kids shows. They've got shows like Andor, which are dark and gritty. And
for us,
I was going to say my sample size of teenagers and below is all of one person, and that's the one Star Wars thing he doesn't like.
Okay.
And then you get like the sequel movies, which is a general audiences thing. You get the Acolyte, which frankly, I think is for the hardcores, the hardest of the hardcores. Like if you read the High Republic books, then you're like, cool, it's on the screen now. So they're hitting like all the corners. And I like that. I like that you don't have to love everything.
I disagree. I completely disagree. I mean, dude, are little kids saving up their piggy banks to go to Star Wars Celebration? No. Me and you are taking our kids or our grandkids to Star Wars Celebration.
Mhm,
Who's paying?
mhm.
Who's paying for the movie tickets when Star Wars is back in theaters? Are kids saving up their piggy banks? Are they paying for the movie tickets? No, they're not. Are little kids saving up their piggy banks to pay the $22 a month for Disney Plus? No, they're not. I will not subscribe to the fact. Oh, we're still doing it just for no, they're not. Because if they really were writing it for kids, they wouldn't have shit like Andor. They wouldn't have stuff, like Rogue One. They wouldn't have, I mean, let's face it, even, portions of, the sequel trilogy. It was a pretty mature thing. I mean, I'm sorry, like, and again, I'm not, being exclusionary or I'm not gatekeeping or anything, but it's just my belief. I really think that they are focused on those of us who spend the money. And I think it's hard to deny that when you consider the fact that, stuff like Solo, they stopped putting stuff out in theaters because it only made $350 million or whatever the hell. It's a bottom line business. And they want people like me and you to spend our money. So, I mean, think about it. The Acolyte was not for kids. It was dark. Like you said, it was the High Republic. It was something that,
It was for the book readers. If you don't read the books, it was all new material.
But it was a great series. A lot of people didn't like it, but now they're listening to all this crap online. And who is bitching about the Acolyte online? I hate to say this, but it's people like me and you, the dummies going, "Oh, Star Wars got woke." Do you think like millennials are saying that was woke? No, they're not.
Don't lump me in with that. Don't lump me in with that, man. That is
Okay.
not my that is not my issue with the Acolyte.
I know that.
My issue with the Acolyte is that it was a poorly made show, a poorly told story.
Okay.
My issue is not any woke agenda in there whatsoever. I'm like,
okay,
wow, if you that is a show for the first time I can look at it and go, you know what? I would approve this pitch 10 days out of 10. No problem. And then that finished product would come out and be like, you fucked up.
Okay, but
you
you're
did a bad job.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I understand why you don't like it, but you're missing my point. The point is the people that are screaming, "It's woke, it's woke." It's people in our demographic.
Oh,
and
okay.
lo and behold, the damn series gets canceled. I mean, it's the first time that really, I mean, it feels to me, that something got crushed solely because of fan pressure. Solo and theatrical releases, they said it was overkill. And again, it made less than $500 million. Like, that, definitely driven by finances. But
is that a bad thing?
What?
If your fan base says we don't like what you're putting out, then you stop putting that out.
Okay, but it's the reasoning behind it. I mean, what was the majority of stuff that you saw online? The hate that you saw for the Acolyte. It was not solely, I don't like the story. It was a bunch of narrow-minded, bigoted dickheads going, "Oh, it's woke."
It's a bunch of keyboard warriors. It's a bunch of keyboard warriors.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's modern fandom of all ages, though.
Well, but now
if you're reading it online, that alone tells you the demographic that you're dealing with.
But people who look like us tend to be the more closed-minded people, and that's who it seems like they listen to. That's my point.
Okay, let's talk Solo then. Kale brings up Solo in the chat here. He says, problem is Solo was crushed because of hate for, I'm assuming he was going to say the Last Jedi.
Yeah. By the way, after this, I do want to get, there's a bunch of really good comments, so I want to get to the chat after this because there's a bunch of stuff I want to go back to. Want to give them a voice. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, so Kale continues his comment. He says, hate for the Last Jedi. People boycotted the next one because they didn't like the last one. Exactly. And who was it that didn't like the Last Jedi? Us.
Dummies.
Us. Not me and you specifically, but our demographic, our group, because it was supposed to be all member berries, and here's Luke, and here's Yoda, and here's all this connection to the original trilogy. So that's speaking to us. That's our childhood fanboy heart beating loud and proud.
Right.
And the response to that was what crushed Solo. So it's not just one generation or one group of fans that does it. We all do it. And I hate to say it because I think Solo was was great. I still enjoy the hell out of that movie.
Fucking love it.
But if the fandom doesn't like something, they are well within their rights to say, we don't like this and we're not going to support it.
Well, I agree with that, but my overarching point is that I still think that Star Wars is geared towards us, the middle-aged, nerdy fan. I mean, because that's where the dollars come from. I mean, how often has Disney been accused of solely selling out for the money? That's all they.
Yeah, but
I mean, so I'm
the
sorry.
The dollars don't come from hooking 40-year-olds on Star Wars. The dollars come from hooking kids and teenagers on Star Wars, because then you grow up and you have discretionary income and you start buying that stuff. Why do you think I got a room full of Lego and action figures and all this stuff? Because I got into it when I was a kid, and now I can buy all that stuff that I couldn't afford as a kid and my parents didn't have the money to buy for me.
Oh, okay, but
that's it right there. What you love as a kid,
okay,
you can afford as an adult. That is exactly the way it all works.
But kids aren't getting into it unless their parents are going, hey, check out this thing I love. How many people have we seen? Not recently, obviously, because we're talking about something that's now 20 years in the rearview mirror. But when, the prequels were out and there's all the hate for the prequels. And how many people did we see? I'm not showing my kids this shit. That is not Star Wars. Original trilogy. Like, it has to be passed down somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it starts, again, this is just my belief. And by the way, I hate that it's this way. I don't like it, but this is how it feels to me, just because what I see at Star Wars Celebration, and whenever we go see a Star Wars movie, it's still Star Wars ages with us, the heart of it. And I think it, and I may have just accidentally completely gotten us back on track. I don't see them doing a ton to do something for, kids in their, teens or even younger or early 20s, where they've got a thing that gets them into Star Wars and go, holy shit, they don't have their Return of the Jedi, they don't have their, Revenge of the Sith or whatever, whatever you want to say. Like, it's not there. And so I think, your idea for the show tonight is an excellent one, because I think it is a different time. But again, I think it's because, it's just, and I'm not against it being still geared towards, air quotes, you and I, but it's, they kind of have to do that. And I think they're stumbling here and there, I would say. To get to the chat here, because there's some great stuff. Let me go back up here. Let's see.
I love it when we have too many comments and lose a couple along the way.
I know. Well, dude, as we have always said, man, love the chat. You guys make the show go. So thank you very much, guys. David O'Neill says, Acolyte put up some important references to canon, and now with it canceled, what the hell happens to that? Yeah, a great point. I mean, small point, but son of a bitch. We've been talking for how long about where's Plagueis? We get 3 seconds of Plagueis and now we're fucked, because a whole bunch of loudmouth online morons had to throw a fit, Nick Hall says, yes, it needs a cardinal direction to follow. Keep it all, or at least mostly, contained to one area. Between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens is a great story area. You get Luke, Mando, Ahsoka. Kale says, all the things that they've done best is when they return to the Skywalkers. Best bit of Ahsoka, Anakin. Most badass moment of Mando, one X-Wing approaching. We try to detach and it all gets lost. And David O'Neill with a very good point says, but Rey is now a continuation of the Skywalker saga, since that is who she is now. And David, that's an excellent counterpoint. What I'm saying is I think it's great to have the Skywalker saga as like the center of things. And I think that, Rey and her movie being episodes 10, 11, 12, whatever, starting a new thing, is kind of like an offshoot of that, but it's rooted in that, that classic stuff, but it's going to have just enough of it to where it grabs everyone, but it's going to be strong enough to start its own thing. So
yeah, you had mentioned earlier about like what Vader basically and the idea of this, like, it's like the spine, it's the backbone, it's the trunk of the tree of the entire Star Wars franchise. And I think you're right, because that's what we've been missing. Like, even making Rey a Skywalker was kind of a last second Hail Mary in episode 9, but at least, like, okay, fine, we've got some character that we can follow moving forward, except we haven't. The last time we saw Rey was 2019 in The Rise of Skywalker. And ever since then, it's like, all right, well, what is the overarching thread that we're following here? So as we get all these new projects, we can actually say, oh, this ties in, and here's how and why it matters. And it seems like the only stuff that has any resonance is when they just keep going back to the same old well of, let's hang some more, branches, ornaments, if you want, on the Skywalker tree. So we get like Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And why do we want to see that?
Amazing.
Because we want to see Anakin and Obi-Wan duke it out one more time. So that's Skywalker adjacent. Rogue One, awesome movie.
Yep.
Picks up with episode 4, and then Andor is a spin-off of that. So we like that one. And we've got animation series. We have Star Wars Resistance. Oh, wait, no one liked that one whatsoever. Star Wars Rebels is held in extremely high regard. Why? Because it's running right up to episode 4 as well, and it picks up all those sorts of threads, and we get some cameos and fun little Easter eggs of the Skywalker saga, and so on and so on and so on. And I feel like they don't have that right now. There's like nothing you could say like, okay, I could see how all this ties in and matters. Mando's the closest thing. Mando was a smash hit when it came out, and credit to it. And what are we getting next as the next movie that is likely to come out? The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yep.
Because even that, they tried spinning off from that, and because it was still so far afield from the Skywalker saga, that spin-offs of that can't sustain the hype.
Speaking of
like,
spin-offs,
big hype for the Ahsoka series as a continuation of Rebels makes some kind of sense. But that whole like connected universe where there was going to be Rangers of the New Republic and Book of Boba Fett was a critical flop. Kind of a mess structurally too, as far as how like 2 vital chapters of the Mandalorian story are told in that series. So you can go from episode 2 at the end of that and start up with season 2 of Mando to season 3 of Mando, and like major shit that resolves the end of season 2 happens in Book of Boba Fett. So if you don't watch that show, you're like, wait a minute, there's a continuity gap that is so big you could drive a Death Star through it. Right? Because it's like, oh, bye, Grogu. This is such a painful goodbye. Next episode. Oh, hi, here's me and Grogu. Like, huh? So they're trying it, but it's just, I don't think it's connecting right now,
All right. Well, man, this chat is rocking tonight, dude. This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, real quick, you made a point that Jim Meyer, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Says animation has been the best Star Wars content in this era. I will give you Bad Batch. Rebels was fuck it. Rebels was crap.
Clone
Skip
Wars
Ruckle,
season 7.
Well, there you go. Yeah, yep. Skip Ruckle says, "Who's buying lightsabers? Adults."
Well, when they cost $150 or $250.
Well,
I mean, they make the
you go.
Walmart, $10 cheapies too, and those sell a lot. I guarantee you, they sell a lot.
Yeah. John Phillips says, "Are you sure, JT, that Disney Star Wars is marketed to 40 and 50-year-olds with a Mary Sue central character?" Yeah, John, I will stand by that argument because, first of all, there's a lot of people like me who don't know what Mary Sue means. I mean, AJ's explained it a few times, but I'm one of those people that's like, all that terminology just to me is just like that's Twitter speak, and I'm like, speak English. I hate that shit. So, I don't get into that. Miranda
Mary
always
Sue is a fictional character who is unrealistically perfect and often female.
I just thought Rey was a great character. That's what I thought. Miranda, always great to see you. She says, "I enjoy Star Wars, but my son has a huge love for Star Wars on his own. I didn't influence him to like Star Wars." Miranda, did Zamian get into Star Wars more after you were hanging out with AJ? I would ask that question because that might be a part of it.
Oh God, this is like part of my boyfriend report card now.
Well, no, but I mean,
Because if the answer is no, then I'm not doing my job.
Nick Hall, I think, says no. We're fucked on Plagueis because Acolyte's story and characters were fucking awful. Oh my God,
That's what we're here for.
Nick, I will disagree, man. I mean, it started out amazing for me and it didn't land great, I think. But I mean, I'm bummed out that they're not doing more seasons of that because I thought it was going in a really cool direction. And especially again, when you introduce Plagueis and then you got Yoda at the end, you're like, okay, there's some cool shit to do there. You know, I mean, Plagueis himself as a character offers up so much storytelling. And now what? We just got to shoehorn him in
Jedi
somewhere?
to die the whole time. I was firmly on the side of the dark side for that one. Like the Jedi characters, I'm like, yeah, you're trash. I don't mind if you get a lightsaber through your gut.
Oh, geez. And yet you're the one that always like said that the Jedi are too good, and so now you're getting like, you know, the darker side of it. Now you're like, fuck you, dude.
Well, no, they're unlikable. Like maybe that was the intentional direction of that, was to say that these are not good Jedi. So the Jedi are not infallible. So let's show you some bad ones. But yeesh. you can show flawed characters without making them unlikable. If they're supposed to be the protagonists, you're supposed to be on their side, and I was firmly not. It's like our, in that case, it's like our Michael Bay 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street problem, where you're supposed to want the kids to survive. You're like, I hate them all. I hope Freddy slaughters them.
Nothing is that bad. It's not that.
No, yeah, that's hyperbole. No, that's internet hyperbole right there. Sorry.
that was ridiculous. Huge piles of dog shit. It's like, you know, I mean, come on, dude. Oof. Yeah. God, why'd you bring that movie up? Now I'm picturing that stupid remake and it's terrible. Oh.
Okay, but we've got a follow up from Miranda here, and I want to talk on this point. So he says, no, he loved Star Wars before Adam, but now has someone to encourage his love and knowledge of the franchise. That's a little bit of an Easter egg. My first name is Adam, in case you didn't know that, audience. Peeling back the curtain there a little bit. I'm not just a couple of letters. Anyway, but to her point though, and we see this at Star Wars Celebration, like everyone has, quote, their Star Wars. It's like, what Star Wars was coming out when you were a kid? That's the one you like the best. We like the original trilogy because we were kids when the original trilogy was happening. Then prequels come along, and people 20 years younger than us, they love Anakin and Obi-Wan. Those are their Star Wars characters. And then same thing, when you're 7 or 8 years old and The Force Awakens is coming out, you're all about Rey and Finn and Poe. And if you're a little bit older than that, like Zamian is, Clone Wars, that's his jam right there. He's all about Ahsoka and the clones and everybody introduced in that series. So yeah, you were saying earlier, it's made for 40 or 50-year-olds. Like, no, it's, you hook the kids, and that is what they're going to latch onto forever.
Okay. I mean, I just Kale McLeish. He is Drake Adam on socials after all. Kale, shh. We're JT and AJ. It's not John and Adam. And I'm not Jonathan, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have stage names.
Right.
Well, now that we've really pulled back the curtain, for those who don't know, it's AJ and JT, because those are our family nicknames. So this is a very family show. You can tell by our language.
I did briefly wrestle under the name Drake Adams. Very clever, right?
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Bryan Danielson wrestling as Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
Anyway,
so
yeah, we
stay on target
again.
Stay on target. Yeah. So,
but yeah, I find myself really wishing we had like some big movie events to look forward to. Like that was always like the backbone of Star Wars, was it's a film franchise, and we've been 5 years without one, and we're at least a year and a half before another one, if not longer. We don't have a release date for the next thing yet. We don't even know what the next thing officially is going to be. We think it's Mandalorian and Grogu because it's the farthest along in the pipeline, but it hasn't been announced. So we don't know. We think it's May 2026, but officially Lucasfilm has not said.
Well, I I have a theory. Supposedly Mandalorian Grogu has already been filmed and all that crap, like whatever.
I'd like to share a graphic real quick, actually, because you sent a good one to me over text. So let me bring this up on the screen here so we can talk about this.
By the way, that's what she said.
Oh, I wasn't
never
paying
do that.
attention. I don't know what you're talking about.
You said you sent a good one to me over text.
All right, so yeah, so we've got the this is the slate. So when we say like, oh, there's no movies coming out, there are a lot of movies coming out. The problem is, we don't know when.
Yeah, this
So-
is
so, yeah,
awesome
running
for
this
our
down.
audio viewers, by the way.
Oh yeah, our audio viewers are great. We're gonna step through this anyway, so it's fine. It's
Yes.
fine.
All right. I will
Um,
let you read.
So we got Mandalorian Grogu, and yes, has reportedly wrapped filming, which means it's in post production now. They're going to do pickup shots and stuff, I'm sure, but now it's off to the effects teams and the editors to find the movie. Alleged release date May 22nd, 2026. Okay, so we're what, a year and 7 months away
Mm-hmm.
at this point. So we got another year and a half, and the last thing was December of 2019. So we're going to go like 6+ years. 6.5 years basically without a Star Wars movie. And then all the rest of these are basically all speculation at this point. Like one of the ones I want to call out is Rogue Squadron, because that one actually got a little like there was a comment earlier about I'll believe it when I see a trailer. And we had that announcement trailer from Patty Jenkins about Rogue Squadron.
Yep.
And we were like, okay, well, this thing's got to be official at this point, right? I mean, they're busy putting out a trailer and announcing the project. And then it got bumped. And it's just kind of like on hold right now. Like they're still rewriting the script according to this graphic on screen. So who knows when that's going to happen?
Yeah.
And that when that fits into her directorial film slate, right?
Yep. Real quick.
So that's the kind of crap.
Sorry, real quick. John Phillips says, I don't buy this list. For the record, John, AJ and I are skeptical as well. So we are, yeah. So sorry to interrupt. Had to bring that up.
But these are all projects that reputable news outlets have reported on as being in production.
Yeah.
Either directly announced by Lucasfilm or picked up on by like Variety and, Hollywood Reporter, like real sources like that.
Yeah.
We're still waiting to find out when or if this Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy is ever going to happen.
Oh God, I hope that happens.
But I mean,
want
looking at all
that
the other
so
things in the
bad.
pipeline, we're still 10 years out from that. So can you really count on that? God knows who. I heard that Taika Waititi's movie has just been kind of put off entirely. I shelved or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
So we've got that. We do know didn't they announce it at Celebration? Yeah, they announced at Celebration 2022 in Anaheim, right? That they were going to take the Mandoverse and have it culminate in a film.
Yes. Isn't that's supposed to be Mando and Grogu though? No.
Well, it's listed as separate on this graphic, and I'm really not sure at this point. I thought the rumor was that Mandalorian Grogu was basically a condensed version of what would have been Mandalorian season 4.
Yeah, that's true. See, that's why we're in the damn dark times. Just give us season
Right?
4, God damn it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, actually, if you think about it, like
rules.
when did season 3 come out? That was 2022
It's
or
been a few years
2021.
now, yeah.
It's been a while. Yeah, and that's their cash cow of the last couple of years, last half decade. It's definitely been Mandalorian. That launched with Disney Plus back in I think 2019, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge hit. We had such high hopes for the Disney Plus shows based on season 1 of Mando. That thing was incredible. But yeah, we know we're getting a new Jedi Order movie. That's the Rey movie.
Yeah.
And they actually trotted Rey out on stage at Celebration to announce that one. So that one seems like super official. But latest news on that is they just lost another writer. So we're back into rewrites. So the script isn't even locked down yet. So that's not going to go in front of cameras for God knows how long. Lando, I thought that was a Disney Plus series. I didn't know that was going to be a movie. What have you heard?
No, I thought it was a show. So why it's listed as a movie here? Like, that's why I say
there's been nothing about it, so we got to figure that there's nothing happening on this one.
Well, that's why I said I brought John Phillips' comment up on the screen. I completely agree when he said I don't buy this list because I mean some of it's a little sketchy. Like I mean, Rogue Squadron is the second to last one. We heard that was just done. I mean, we've heard so many different things about all these different projects. excuse me. Like, so, I mean, what are we supposed to believe? I mean, honestly, so, I mean, I have a thought.
Hmm.
So, and it's celebration centric. So if you look at the dates of what is going down in the coming years, and you look at
Mhm.
the dates when celebration is happening, we know that mid-April next year in Japan is Celebration Japan, and that's 25. And if Mandu and Grogo,
Grogo, yeah.
if Mandu and Grogo, um, if that's the next movie and it's May of 2026, doesn't it seem like it would make sense that they would show, like, that would be what they would what they would be promoting at
Mhm,
Celebration next
mhm.
year, like a year out, going, "Hey, check this out. Here's the new movie." But because we also know this has not been confirmed anywhere, but anybody who's been to Celebration and anybody with half an ounce of Star Wars cred knows this. The following Celebration is going to be in the US in 2027. It's the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, yada yada. And since they've announced the Rey movie, wouldn't it make sense that the Celebration Japan is going to be, oh, here's the big thing next May. It's Mandu and Grogo, you know. um they would do that, but then at the closing ceremony, don't you think it would make sense to not only announce 2027 Celebration, but also go, hey, by the way, the Rey movie is fucking happening. Here's a little bit of pre-production footage, and that's what they're building up to 2027, because we know the dates of Celebration. That would be
Mhm, mhm.
perfect to start announcing it, and then the major promotional blast would be spring or early summer of 2027 for a late 2027 release for the Rey movie. That
Yeah, they
just
do love
feels
that
like,
December release window.
yeah. I mean, dude, and to me, again, it's just me speculating, but it feels like what they've done before. So it feels like it makes just too much sense. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and we all know that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, sorry, the Mandu and Grogu movie, uh,
Right.
it's actually hard to say. I'm having a hard time keeping that joke going.
I had to
Um,
try too after I fucked it up.
it's that one kind of reeks of low-hanging fruit, low effort production. Like, it's all built, the sets are all standing already. It's it's like not to cross franchises. I know we don't hot trek on the show, but that's the reason why they, as soon as they wrapped up the Next Generation season 7, they immediately went into production with the first Next Generation movie, because they're like, all the shit's here. All we got to do is light it and fix anything that film quality cameras pick up that TV cameras don't. There you go. Low production costs. And it feels like that's exactly what they're doing with this movie. They're like, we need a movie out ASAP. What's the quickest thing we can get going? Oh, we've got these scripts for season 4 of The Mandalorian. Great. We're making it a movie instead then. Go.
Yeah. And also it's popular. I mean, they
Mhm.
know it's gonna land. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they
one of those.
need that hit.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think a few things are lining up um nicely, So I think that's good. But I love that you brought this topic up, because it does kind of seem like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, there's not really a direction. A lot of things have not hit like they hoped. Uh, you
Yeah,
know,
one of the stranger things going on is we've been spoiled. We had the comment about animation being the best content in the Disney era so far, and I think that's kind of true as far as like overall consistency goes. I mean, Vision's notwithstanding, I know we're not anime fans, so that's not speaking to us, but as far as I know, it's been relatively well received.
yeah,
So, for better or worse, it's good enough that it got 2 seasons, and maybe they'll go for a third. Who knows? And they've done Tales of the Jedi and now Tales of the Empire, um, basically milking every bit of the animation engine that they built for Clone Wars season 7 and the Bad Batch,
all
because
right,
it's like all the same style. But yeah, in the Disney era, we start with Rebels in 2014, and that did a great job of building out the Rogue One era, I'll call it.
yeah,
Bringing in stuff like Thrawn and all kinds of Legends connections like that. We got season 7 of the Clone Wars, which what did Clone Wars do? Clone Wars completely filled in the gaps between episode 2 and 3. So that was fantastic.
Yep.
To get that. Star Wars Resistance is kind of a wet fart. No one really cares about that one, unfortunately. But they tried to do the same thing. They tried to put some context of the universe around the sequel trilogy at the time.
Yeah.
And they even did like a tie-in of like, oh, you just missed them with the events of The Last Jedi, because they ended up at Dakar or Dakar Noir or whatever the hell that planet was. That
Dakar Noir, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's that, and you get Tales of the Jedi, also explaining some of these characters. So I think he's right. I think animation is the one reliable thing, and Bad Batch was fantastic as well. Continuing the Clone Wars era stuff into the what they would call the Dark Times in universe, the Empire era before the Rebellion rose up. And every animation project has been followed very closely by an announcement of the next animation project. So It seems like there's at least a little bit of a roadmap, and they're kind of like cycling through and getting pre-production done while they're wrapping up one show. We don't know when the next animation project's coming out or what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that once Bad Batch season 3 was in the can, we would have like 2-3 months, and then they'd be like, and here's the next great project from Star Wars Animation. And we haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
I don't even know, like, hazard a guess. Where do you think they're going to go next with animation? Like, what era do you think they're going to put a show in?
I would say High Republic. I think they're kind of putting a lot of eggs in that basket.
I could see that.
I mean, personally, I would prefer if they would do it in live action, because I would like to see them try to make a giant fucking rock work in live action as a character. So then when everybody goes, what in God's name is that? Kung Pao Enter the Fist. What in God's name is that thing?
In this vendetta against
it's horrible.
Geode.
It's horrible. It's not even a great name. Okay, it's not even a great name. Like, why not just call it Giant Rock? Hey, who's that guy? Oh, that's Giant Rock. Seriously, bro? Yeah, it's Giant Rock. Yeah, not very creative, I know. Yeah, but no.
because Yak Face was so creative.
That's better than Geode, because Yak Face is a sentient actual being. Geode is a goddamn rock, okay? And he hits on chicks, for God's sakes. I mean, come on. I want them to put that in live action so they realize first of all, it'll suck, because what are you going to do? Second of all, the fans will shit on it. I mean, people who don't know the High Republic will see that character and go, what in the fuck am I looking at? What in God's name is this? Again, Kung Pao Enter the Fist. What in God's name is that thing? If you guys have ever seen Kung Pao Enter the Fist, you have to watch that movie. It's glorious for at least 2/3 of it. Anyway, dude, and it might get it through their thick skulls to stop writing shit like that. Okay? Seriously? A giant rock. A sentient rock. A sentient rock.
Coming up, we have Goonies in space. We've got suburban California tree lawns with hover cars, and that's now Star Wars. So how do you feel about that?
I actually have a very good explanation for that. Cale McLeish. He says, would the actor playing Geode be the first rock star in Star Wars? And he says, wait, no, Flea was in Kenobi. There you go, Cale. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, so I have a very definitive answer about the E.T. neighborhood in Skeleton Crew, because that's really what it is. Let's be honest. We've learned this over and over and over again. What we have seen in this trailer is all going to happen in like the first 4 minutes of the first episode. So it's probably going to get shown one time, and the only time is going to be what we saw in the trailer. So is it annoying? Yeah, it's a little too derivative, a little too human, but it's only going to be on screen for a second. So I don't care. And it's not a
Star Wars trailers is it doesn't tell us shit, so I don't care if it's good or bad.
Exactly. And you know what I want to see? You know what I want to see? Okay. I want to see like walking behind them, since they're like, let's go full ET. They'll be trick-or-treating. They'll be walking around the street and everything. I want to see a giant like rectangular thing that's like 8 feet tall behind them. That's just like nothing but like, like a giant rectangle covered in a sheet with 2 holes cut in it, like the worst, most obvious, like old school, like 60s ghost costume ever. And it's fucking Geo dressed as a ghost for Halloween in the ET neighborhood and skeleton crew. That'd be amazing. If we're gonna have Geode, let's make Geode even worse. Like, first of all, he's like shuffling down the sidewalk, Lord knows how. Second of all, put him in like the worst, dumbest Halloween costume ever. Seriously. And
No.
the only show is as quick as you can. He's walking away from the door as the other kids walk up to the door trick or treating, and it shows a brief glimpse into his candy bag, and it's nothing but rock candy. It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh my God. You took so long to get around to that punchline. Holy shit.
It's not a punchline. I'm dude. This is
if we're going to go full circle
here.
on the trick-or-treating, we got to have someone dressed up as Yoda. We got to have a trick-or-treater dressed as Yoda.
It'll be Grogu. That's just a baby Yoda dressed as adult Yoda. Oh, see, why aren't we writing this crap? Yet again, we're giving Disney gold and we're just giving it away for free online. Damn it.
Yeah, we're not doing this right.
We're terrible at this thing. Oh my God.
I mean, if people would go to, www.patreon.com/NHC podcast and kick us a couple bucks a month, at least maybe we could have the money to, spend more time on this and get these ideas out there. We can even fan animate this shit. Who cares?
Is this where I plead poverty and let everybody know that the monthly cost for me to host this thing that went from like $35-$40 a month to almost $100? Thank you, StreamYard.
Yeah, that's actually a great time to bring that up. Because fuck that.
Maybe that's what I should have voted for yesterday. I should have been like, okay, who's going to make StreamYard affordable again? Hell with groceries and gas. Who's going to make podcasting more affordable? You got my vote, dude. Kale McLeish says,
make podcasting great again.
We need to make those hats instead of MAGA, like MPGA. Make podcasting great again. Oh my
Build
God.
the paywall.
Holy crap, that would be amazing, dude. Hopefully,
right,
unfortunately, a lot of people wouldn't get the humor. They'd be too mad because they are actually political. But so Kale McLeish says, and ET is in Phantom Menace anyway. It's building upon an obscure Easter egg. See, Kale gets it. It would be fun. It would definitely be fun.
Back to the central point, though. Like, I think the reason that our hype level for Skeleton Crew is so mid, we'll talk like the kids these days,
muted,
is because until they give me a reason to think this story matters in a larger context, it doesn't. I'm just like, oh, so it's literally. I've had this issue with Disney Star Wars, but at least the earlier part of Disney Star Wars had something going for it, and that's that they were still pulling from George Lucas-based stuff. And George Lucas only made movies, only told Star Wars when he wanted to tell Star Wars, when he had something to say. Now it's just painfully obvious that they just keep cranking out Star Wars because they need to make money off the franchise of Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It kind of feels like they're thankfully they've got a lot of writers that completely get, for the most part. Kale McLeish, talk like a teenager again, and JT gets to put you in timeout.
He's punted me before.
Yeah, you still owe Kale a very big apology for what you did to him 2 weeks ago. That was mean.
I did apologize.
Well, you need to apologize more because it was rude. He couldn't even comment. He's like one of our first fans, man, at least on the video side. And you completely shut him down. That's so rude. But anyway, damn it, I lost my train of thought again. Probably because I have a point I want to bring up later. So
seriously, dude.
But yeah, because
we were talking about how early Disney Star Wars was attached to George Lucas Star Wars, and now they're just rolling out stuff that has no connection to George Lucas Star Wars.
Well, I mean, you made a good point in saying that, like, they're doing it for money, they're doing this, that, and the other. Like, thankfully they have, the writers seem to finally be on board getting the vibe of Star Wars. And it feel like, the whole thing when, Force Awakens came out, there was that debate. Oh, it feels like Star Wars. And I was one of those kind of like, I don't know. So thankfully
Yeah, we're
they've
the
got,
minority. We felt that episode 8 felt more like Star Wars
yes.
because it was well, I mean, George Lucas wasn't afraid to take risks and steer the story in a direction you didn't expect.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't rehash himself like ever. So that was awesome. But yeah, I mean, they've done a great job of getting, writers on board that are, they're getting the essence of it. They're getting the feel of it. You'll never quite get to the George Lucas level, but to me, it's all felt like excellent. I've loved it. So that part's good. But yeah, I think you phrased it excellently in that, they're just, the powers that be, we'll phrase it that way. They're just pumping out Star Wars because in their mind, oh, if we just shit out a bunch of Star Wars, everyone's going to lap it up. Star Wars fans will lap up anything. Well, not really. Like, we still would like it to be worth a damn. It's like, and some of these things have not been. And again, they're like, where are you going with this? An Acolyte started to tell an awesome story, potentially, and now it's gone. Because why? Because some loudmouth jerk-offs threw a fit online. I mean, that's the only reason why. And so, they do that sort of thing. And I don't know,
the connective tissue doesn't even have to be necessarily narrative. Like, I remember how cool it was when the final episode of season 1 of Mandalorian came out and Grogu force healed Grief Karga. And we were like, oh shit, that's what he was trying to do the whole season. And he did that. And then you go and you see Rise of Skywalker. And then Rey does the same thing, like in the very same week. It was like, clearly they had this whole slate of projects. And they're like, wouldn't it be awesome if they watch the episode on Disney Plus and then they go to the theater and see the same thing?
Yep.
And it was like, that's when like the studio's humming and they got all kinds of cool stuff. Like even Marvel did it back in the day, like Thor: The Dark World, had this end battle all over London and they were teleporting and all this crazy stuff and they wrecked the shit out of London. And then the next week on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they show them cleaning up the mess from the Battle of Thor 2.
Right.
And it's just perfect that way, I love that synergy. Hate to use that word, but it proves that the different people making this stuff are talking to each other. There's a plan.
Wait a minute. You hate using the word synergy, but you'll use Twitter speak from like tweens? The hell's wrong with you? Anyway.
The youth are our future.
There's a song there I will not sing.
Teach them well and let them lead the way.
There it is. Yeah, like I don't know. I agree with you there. And I think part of the reason that we have got less properties lately is because they are learning that quality over quantity. We definitely want Star Wars, but it's going to go better for them if you give us better stuff, because we'll be on board longer term, as opposed to just crapping out anything. Because I mean, you used the term fatigue when we first started the show, and that's very much, I'm sure, what people are thinking. And you and I, I forget what term you use, but it basically must see TV. We'll just phrase it that way. For me, it's must see TV because I'm like, ooh, it's new Star Wars. I'm the childish one of the two of us. Always have been, as we've established on the show many times. So for me,
which is like, hilarious, because if you look behind me and if you were to turn off your green screen and show your room right now, I'm the infant. I'm definitely the infant in the room.
Right. Very good. Yes.
I mean, yours is pretty immature too, but yours is like teenage immature. Mine's like 9 years old immature.
Well, mine's all music stuff. Yours is like Legos and whatnot. So
right.
But yeah, so I just think they're starting to get on board understanding the fact that, like, quality over quantity. But what they're doing is like there is no connective tissue. Like you said, even just the tiniest of connective tissue would help. But we're like, okay, where is this going? Like, honestly, and this is the positive I wanted to bring up. I think that some of the very best Star Wars content that they have been doing is in the video games, because the last 3 games have been exceptionally well received. The platform ones,
Mhm,
Fallen Order,
mhm.
Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and now Star Wars Outlaws. People are loving those games, and I do. I mean, I prefer I prefer Fallen Order and Survivor to Outlaws, but Outlaws is awesome in one respect. Like, I haven't gotten into it as much because it's I'm still trying to figure out what the hell the point is. Most people are like, "Oh my god, this is great! It's like an open world Star Wars game." I'm like, "Okay, fine," but you know, and I've had so many missions like, "Oh, go find me an extra jet for your, speeder bike, and we'll talk." I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now? Seriously, that's what I'm doing?"
Yeah.
But it's amazing to do that, because I can sit down and I'm like, I want to play Star Wars. And if I just play for 20 or 30 minutes, I can complete a little mission and move forward. So this game is going to last me a long ass time, you know. And the story is cool. There's different characters in there, but it's still, I've had to infiltrate an Imperial base. So there's, looks like the damn Death Star, and there's stormtroopers and shit. So that's awesome, And obviously we know the story of Cal Kestis. Like, that's amazing, and that's, I think we all, think that's gonna tie in somewhere. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that they're starting to learn that not just puking out a ton of stuff is the better way to go.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, you had mentioned earlier, I mean, it's still got to connect to something and not just be, you know, tumbleweeds in the breeze. Like, where's this going? Like, it has to have some sort of direction.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why this news of replacing the writer on the new Jedi Order movie is a bummer, but also fine at the same time. Like you're saying, I would rather have less Star Wars because frankly, we've been spoiled for content. I mean, good or bad, the fact that we've got so much stuff to talk about in the last 10 years when any previous decade, you'd get 3 movies. That's it.
Yeah. Mhm.
If you got any movies in that decade.
Yeah.
So we've got so much stuff. Now we're like, oh my God, there's nothing else coming out this year. What a ridiculously low period.
Yeah.
Ourselves, our own show, we've been like grasping for ideas here and there because we're like, well, there's no new Star Wars to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
people went years without new Star Wars to talk about, and it was fine, right?
And it was called The Dark Times. Oh, look at our
Right?
topic tonight.
Oh, but yeah, so yeah, like I'm really looking forward to the Rey movie. And to be clear, by the way, fandom has run with and media has run with the idea that it's going to be episode 10 and probably 10, 11, 12. Like, that's not been announced at all. This could just be
No.
a spin-off of a character from the sequel trilogy. But I think if they're responding to their fan base, they're probably going to figure out a way to expand this out into a trilogy because yeah, Star Wars needs, to your point, that trunk, that backbone, right?
Yeah.
If it feels like just to give it a direction, like you said, and then everything else can just kind of branch off of that. So we know that there's a true reason for the franchise to continue instead of just saying, well, it makes money, so let's put some bounty hunters and some Jedi and some Sith users in there and, let AI spit out a script and here we go. Like, give it a narrative direction and build upon it from there. I think the same way that the latest crop of Marvel stuff has actually been better and the stuff that's on the horizon seems to be better still. I think Star Wars is coming back to its roots, to your point.
Yeah.
Like, I think this new Daisy Ridley led new Jedi Order movie is going to be the start of something good and new. And sometimes you've got to go through the dark times. You got to have a couple of missteps to learn from that and be like, oh yeah, let's not do that. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So hopefully they know moving forward. My hope, at least, this is my positive outcome of all this, is like, yeah, we've been seeing some rough stuff. The quality has taken a dip. Interest is a little bit low, but we're still here. They're still making Star Wars, and I think they're going to use that moving forward to give us better stuff. What do you think?
Yeah. I completely agree. And that's why I think, they are taking their time with this Daisy Ridley movie. And I firmly believe it's going to be a new trilogy because I think, when they look at what they've done, Kale, I was waiting. Kale never lets me down, man. Kale says, hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when it's there, you'll never make it through the night. Kale, I love you, man. I wanted to say it, and I'm like, I bet Kale's gonna bring it up. Nailed it, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude, I think that they have learned some lessons about two things. They've learned some lessons, but real quick, I wanted to make one quick point. With the movies and coming back to it and everything. The one thing that I think they did right by holding off on the God, now you're sneezing, I'm hiccuping. By so one of the things I think they got absolutely right by holding off on the film schedule is let's just say, for sake of argument, that the next movie is May of 26, as we're hearing. It's Mando, Grogu, and Mandu. And dude, that will be.
We all love the Mandalorian. Yep.
Yes. And Baby Yoda is just, God, we're such morons. It will have been like basically 7 years between theatrical releases. And I remember when even me and you, like, going into, the Rise of Skywalker, we're kind of like, man, remember when it was like 3 years between movies and it was like this huge long wait? Now it's like every year. Like, well, now we've got that big long wait. So now you are going to be so hyped. We get that experience again.
I am looking forward to that.
Yeah.
You get like that one trailer or that character design that leaks in like a visual dictionary that's coming out or whatever. And we're just like, oh my God, what does this mean?
Yeah. Well, and even the fact of it being like, remember, we always had like 10, 12, 14 people with us. Like, I would have to send out a text message and get like, $250 worth of movie tickets. And be like, hey, here's my PayPal. Like, shoot me over the money. And like, because everybody wanted it was this huge crew of people that we would go with. And we're getting that back. And my other point, talking about the Daisy Ridley film, which again, I will stand firm on saying it's the start of a new trilogy. The reason I believe that is because I really think that they've learned from their mistakes, and they see that the tentpole stuff in the entire Star Wars universe is the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. And what were they? One story chopped into 3 pieces, and everybody loved them. And that just is that is the center of everything. And so I think they see that, and knowing that Rey is such an unbelievably popular character, and that there has been so much noise from fans wanting to see the Jedi Order come back. It's just the perfect recipe to do that again. Here's a new trilogy. We have this story, and it's chopped into 3 pieces. Here's a new trilogy. So I am firmly standing by my belief that that's what they're doing, and that it's because they have learned from previous mistakes, and that maybe this quote unquote dark times that we're talking about right now is a good thing. Because it's going to it's a course correction. It's creating a course correction for Star Wars.
I just hope they learn what made the original and prequel trilogies successful, which they didn't have with 7, 8, and 9. And that's that George Lucas had a message and a theme he wanted to talk about, and used Star Wars as the veneer instead of just a lot of the newer stuff, especially feels like, well, let's make a Star War. No, like that's even the Clone Wars was like ripped on because, they, especially season 2 and 1 were like genre pieces. Like, can we do horror in Star Wars? Can we do a zombie in Star Wars? Can we do a kaiju movie in Star Wars? They would do these homages to different genres, but that was the whole point, was like, we're going to make a thing in this style, and then we're going to make it fit into Star Wars, instead of being like, well, you know what? We could just tell any story we want with lightsabers, and because lightsabers are a Star Wars thing, and therefore it's a Star Wars. It's like, no. It's ironic we're actually doing this, because this is actually not a thought I had until we're doing this show right now. But sorry guys, Star Wars has always been political. George Lucas admitted like the Rebel Alliance was the Viet Cong because that was the new relevant conflict when he was making those movies. And then the prequels come along and he's talking about the dangers of big government and selling out for security's sake. And, you know, it's always been political. So I hope whoever leads this hopefully new trilogy of Rey movies has something to say in that vein that reflects our current political climate. And then that's the framework that everything hangs on. Unfortunately, we're a little savvy right now, and I don't think people would go if they knew they were being preached politics. But if you don't, it just connects with you, and you're like, huh, I wonder why that is.
Well, that's when they get accused of being woke, you know, by a certain segment of the population. My hope for the new films is that they kick ass. Dude, I will never get out of being 4 years old and seeing Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon and being like, nothing's cooler than that. And then I was 8 years old and Eddie Van Halen and the Frankenstrat came along and said, oh, I see you. All right. Now there's two things that will never, ever be as cool. And to this day, nothing is as cool. And this, to me, it's like, just give me awesome, fun Star Wars. That's all I care about. I don't, whatever the message is or anything, like, we've talked on the show before, and you're a much deeper person than I am, much more intelligent and whatnot. I want to go have a good time. I want to go to the theater. I want to eat some popcorn, hang out with my friends, especially with you. You're my all-time favorite Star Wars buddy. I always have been, always will be, and just have a blast and be like, dude, the real world doesn't exist right now. I'm just sitting here enjoying stormtroopers and, the Force and lightsabers and shit. Like, so, they can do whatever they want. Just make it awesome. Make it fun. Make it feel like Star Wars, man. Like that's all I want. That's all I want. And, and especially if it ties into something that we already enjoy as that backbone, going back to what we said earlier, the trunk of that tree, that's even better. I'm all for new stories, but I love getting hit in the member berries here and there because it does root it for me in things. So, I'm much more simplistic than you are. So,
so to wrap up and summarize, do we think that there are brighter times ahead?
Oh yeah. I mean,
when do
again,
you think that begins?
I think it begins at Celebration next year. I think
Japan 2025.
Yeah, I think April next year we're gonna find out some stuff, like because if you announce it at Celebration, it has to happen. The entire Star Wars fandom now pays attention to Celebration. That is the source for if it's at Celebration, it's real. It's true. John Phillips said earlier, I don't believe Star Wars till I see a trailer, and I don't believe anything until it's at Celebration. Because if they were to come out and say at Celebration this is happening, and it doesn't, they look really, really unbelievably stupid. And they, you can't do that. So I think we're going to get our first major blast of here's the new stuff. And again, I think it's, most of it's going to be Mandu and Grogu. But then at the close, they're going to announce 2027, and it's going to be, hey, the Daisy Ridley movie's happening, in 2027. I stand by that. So,
all right. So cheap plug for the podcast network that we stream to as well, the Virtual Cantina Network. Since we're mentioning Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025, that is actually the name of the group on Facebook, because I'm looking at our viewership right now, and we are basically on our own YouTube channel at this point. So, yeah, when you're on Facebook, go find that group, join it. It's a great group of people. There's tons of posts, news, and updates. They're far more plugged in than we are. So make sure you locate that. So what we call the Virtual Cantina Network is known as Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025 on Facebook.
Yeah, and they update the name every time an upcoming celebration's coming. But they've got, I want to say, over 70,000 followers now, and just an insanely positive community online. They do just an absolutely kick-ass job with it. There's no negativity allowed at all. Nobody's fighting with each other. People are just posting pictures of themselves at the different Comic-Cons and stuff with, the actors and actresses and all that. It's an awesome place. So go check that out. That's why we always say that we're very blessed to be a part of the Virtual Cantina Network, is because of those amazing people there at the Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025 page on Facebook. So, all right, that'll pretty much do it for this episode, AJ. But you wanted to mention that we are actually having an off day in 2 weeks. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Even though I basically just said it all.
Yeah. Well, it kind of ties in actually to the Virtual Cantina Network, because our time slot is going to be used by our sister program, if you want to call it that, on the Virtual Cantina Network. So if you were to tune into the Virtual Cantina Network on Facebook or YouTube on November 20th, which would be the date of our next show, you would instead see I always get this wrong, Daughters of the Force.
Yes, I believe so.
Daughters of the Force. I was going to say Daughters of the Galaxy, and I'm never sure which one it is.
I always get it wrong too. We are terrible.
Yeah, this is what happens when you don't do your show prep. But
you'll see another show.
Yeah, show prep. What the hell is that? I'm gonna cheat and look up the graphic. Yeah. Basically, we were going to be off in 2 weeks. So our next show will not be November 20th. It is actually going to be then, I believe that would be December 4th. But quick, look up a calendar and save me here.
Yeah, well, I'm the one. Well, let me think. I believe it is. Yeah, it should be the 4th. Thinking about my show schedules. Yeah, the 4th. It's going to be the 4th.
Yeah. So this is actually going to be our last show prior to Thanksgiving here in the U.S. So, for everybody who celebrates that, go gorge on turkey. It's the greatest meal of the year, and I stand by that. So have yourselves a wonderful Thanksgiving. Take a break from all this craziness that's going on, especially here in the U.S., whichever side you fall on with the election last night. And, go touch grass, hug a family member, shake a friend's hand. JT, you got anything?
No, man. I think you said it best. Like you said, a lot of craziness going on here, and as I said at the outset, man, always subscribe to the Bill and Ted philosophy, man. Be excellent to each other. It's very, very easy to just be cool to the other person. You can disagree politically or on anything, but don't let that ruin your relationships and your friendships, man. You're gonna let something that took a few minutes to spew, you're gonna ruin something that took years and years to build, and you never want to do that, man. So just love each other, man.
Fantastic way to put it. Yep.
Yeah. So so thank you guys for tuning in to another. Real quick, Kale has a question. Do we get an extra Talking Into Infinity at least? Well, I mean,
I believe you do have an annual tradition, right?
Yes. So my music podcast, we do have our fan hangout coming up on December 20th. So we are doing that, Kale, and Kale will be a co-host. That's basically what we do every year. We should start doing that on the Nerf Herder Council, man. Get one going. But basically what we do is we get anybody who tunes into the chat and who would like to jump on screen and co-host with us. We let them co-host and run the show, and we talk about whatever. And that show runs however long it goes. We just basically, however long people want to talk. We've had one go 3.5 hours, and it's just, we drink and, we have a good time, and it's the start of the holiday season for all of us. And so we got that coming up on December 20th. So that's awesome. But that's all I had, man. Do you happen to have the VCN schedule by any chance?
I do happen to have the VCN schedule. And there it is over our ugly mugs. So wait, it's reversed. I got to go this way. Okay, there we go. Yeah. I hate being backwards. There we go. We're pointing at stuff on the screen. This is great for your audio viewers. But yes, so tomorrow night, VCN Watch Along is doing movies that we are thankful for, and ironically enough, they're doing the Goonies. So if you want to watch Star Wars Goonies next month, why don't you watch the real Goonies with the VCN crew tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time. And then Star Wars Celebration Japan News Desk, which is pre-celebration prep, is going to come at you on Saturday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And finally, let me just get this stupid banner off the screen.
I already
How
did
do we
it.
do that? Oh, you killed it. Good job. Good job. And then
Absolutely.
Sunday, November 10th, we got the Unifying Force. They have their new episode out, and that is at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. So plenty of great stuff on the Virtual Cantina Network coming up for the rest of this week. So if you want more insightful Star Wars content than what we provide, then that is the place to be. JT, do you have anything else before we sign off?
I do not, man. So kill the graphic. Kill the graphic. Yeah, just since it is Thanksgiving coming up, thankful for you. Obviously, you're my best friend, and hard to believe that we're coming up on 10 years of doing this damn show in December. That's wow, that's unbelievable. Thankful for all of our amazing friends in the chat that tune in every week. Kale McLeish, John Phillips, Billy Judd, Miranda, all you guys, Skip Ruckle, Nick Hall. Great to see you guys, man. I mean, you guys make the show go, and just very grateful and blessed to be able to do what we're doing and have, at least a few people give a shit about spending every other Wednesday with us. So other than that, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. My recommendation this week is the Alex Van Halen kind of autobiography. It's entitled Brothers, and I say kind of because he stops literally when David Lee Roth left the band, so he completely ignores anything past the Roth era in the 80s.
Wow.
But it is read by Alex Van Halen himself, and most of it is about his personal relationship with Eddie. And it is incredibly personal, and to hear it in his own voice is unbelievable. And I would highly recommend it if you like music biographies, or especially if you're a Van Halen fan like I am. It's just an excellent addition to the collection. So that's my recommendation. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, there's some great designs on there made by AJ. They kick ass. Just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. The Virtual Cantina Network has some awesome swag. Just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. Do all that. And if you're looking for audio replays of the show, just Google Nerf Herder Council podcast. And again, we are everywhere in the galaxy that you can possibly think of. So until next time, I am your host, JT. Screw X and all that stuff. I'm just JT. The real John Drake on Rumble and all that kind of crap, whatever. Dog Pound Jedi. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
Go fuck yourself. He is AJ.
Fuck you. It's like a tiny bag is mocking me.
You forgot the
anyway. Right. Anyway, I'm at Drake Adams 579, but I do want to say, as the year winds down, I got more free time coming up. So if you like the off Wednesday shows that we do, like the Lego Live builds or drinking games on Fridays with Joseph Wren and whatnot, stay tuned to our socials. So make sure you're following us on X. Look us up on Facebook, and we'll post all our announcements there. And of course, there's also patreon.com/NHC podcast. We post everything there first. And hopefully, if John's got some free time coming up here, we did release for Thanksgiving last year the Phantom Menace commentary track. Hopefully, we might be getting the Attack of the Clones commentary track done soon, but we honestly haven't discussed when. So point is, you got to stay tuned on socials to find out when or if that might happen. So make sure you follow us there, and we will be posting everything so you know when to tune in.
And with that, guys, we will catch you next time.